Have you ever wondered why Jesus could command the elements, heal the sick, and transform reality with a word? What if these miracles weren't violations of natural law, but demonstrations of universal principles that govern all existence? What if the extraordinary power Jesus wielded is actually available to each of us, hidden beneath layers of misunderstanding about the true nature of reality? Throughout history, ancient wisdom traditions have pointed to fundamental laws that operate across all planes of existence. Among these, the Hermetic Principles stand as perhaps the most profound yet practical framework for understanding both the cosmos and our place within it. These 7 principles weren't just philosophical concepts. They were living truths demonstrated through the life and teachings of spiritual masters. When Jesus proclaimed, "The kingdom of God is within you," he wasn't speaking metaphorically. He was revealing the first Hermetic principle, mentalism. This principle teaches that all is mind, that the universe itself is mental in nature, a manifestation of divine intelligence. Every miracle Jesus performed, from calming storms to multiplying loaves and fishes, demonstrated his mastery of this principle. He wasn't defying the laws of nature. He was operating from a higher understanding of them. Consider the moment when Jesus walked on water. The disciples, bound by conventional understanding of reality, saw an impossibility. Yet Jesus, aligned with universal mind, experienced water as responsive to consciousness itself. The miracle wasn't that he suspended physical law, but that he operated from a level of mind where such manifestations become natural expressions of a higher order. This principle of mentalism explains why Jesus repeatedly emphasized the power of belief. "According to your faith be it unto you," he said, because he understood that consciousness shapes reality. When he taught that faith could move mountains, he wasn't speaking in poetic hyperbole, but stating a literal truth about the nature of existence, that the physical world is ultimately responsive to the power of mind. Close your eyes for a moment and become aware of your thoughts. Notice how they shape your emotions, your perceptions, your very experience of reality. Now imagine what might be possible if you could align your mind with the universal mind, the infinite intelligence that Jesus called Father. This isn't about positive thinking or wishful imagination. It's about recognizing that consciousness itself is the foundation of all existence. The ancient Hermetic text, the Kybalion, states, "The universe is mental, held in the mind of the all." Jesus expressed the same truth when he said, "I and the Father are one." He wasn't claiming exclusive divinity, but demonstrating the potential within each of us to align with and express universal mind. His consciousness was so perfectly attuned to divine intelligence that no separation existed between his thoughts and divine thought. As we explore these ancient principles through the lens of Jesus' teachings, you'll discover that what seemed miraculous was actually an expression of universal laws, laws that are available to anyone who understands them. The Master Builder didn't just show us what was possible, he showed us how it was possible. Your Father knows what you need before you ask him, Jesus taught. This profound statement reflects the second Hermetic principle, correspondence, as above, so below, as below, so above. This principle reveals that there is a perfect correspondence between all planes of existence, spiritual, mental, and physical. What happens in one realm is mirrored in all others. When Jesus performed miracles, he demonstrated this principle in action. His ability to heal the sick, calm the storm, and even raise the dead weren't acts of defying nature, but of aligning with it. He knew that the laws of the spiritual realm of faith, intention, and divine power could be brought into harmony with the physical world. Consider the miracle of healing the blind man. Jesus first created the healing in consciousness, the spiritual plane, before it manifested in physical form. He didn't struggle against material limitations, but recognized that physical conditions naturally conform to spiritual patterns when properly aligned. First, clean the inside of the cup, he taught, and then the outside will also be clean. This is correspondence in action. Inner transformation, creating outer change. This principle appears throughout Jesus' parables. When he compared the kingdom of heaven to a mustard seed, he was illustrating correspondence, how the pattern of growth is consistent across scales, from the tiniest seed to the greatest spiritual reality. The same laws that govern the seed's development into a tree govern the expansion of divine consciousness within the human heart. Look at the natural world around you. Notice how patterns repeat themselves from the microscopic to the cosmic scale. The spiral of a seashell mirrors the spiral of a galaxy. The branching pattern of a tree resembles the branching of your lungs and blood vessels. These aren't coincidences, but expressions of the principle of correspondence, evidence that the same divine intelligence operates across all scales of creation. Jesus understood this unity between heaven and earth, between spirit and matter. When he taught us to pray, "Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven," he was invoking this very principle, asking us to bring the higher divine pattern into manifestation in our physical reality. The healing that happens in consciousness inevitably manifests in the body. The peace that reigns in your heart will eventually transform your external circumstances. The principle of correspondence also explains Jesus' emphasis on inner state rather than outward appearance. Man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart, Scripture teaches. Jesus understood that the outer life invariably reflects the inner life, that what we hold in consciousness eventually manifests in experience. This is why he warned against hypocrisy, which attempts to maintain different patterns in the inner and outer worlds, a violation of cosmic law that cannot be sustained. This principle reminds us that we aren't separate from the divine order, but integral to it. Your thoughts and emotions aren't just internal experiences. They're creative forces that ripple outward, affecting everything around you. When Jesus said, "According to your faith be it unto you," he wasn't just offering encouragement. He was stating a cosmic law, that our inner state shapes our outer reality in ways both subtle and profound. "My words are spirit and they are life," Jesus declared. This statement reveals his understanding of the third Hermetic principle, vibration. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. At the core of this principle is the recognition that everything in the universe, from the smallest particle to the largest star, is in constant motion, vibrating at different frequencies. Modern physics confirms what ancient mystics knew intuitively, that solid matter is an illusion. What appears as substance is actually energy vibrating at specific frequencies. The difference between lead and gold, between disease and health, between despair and joy, is fundamentally a difference in vibration. Jesus demonstrated mastery of this principle when he spoke words of power that transformed reality. "Lazarus, come forth. Peace, be still. Take up your bed and walk." His commands weren't merely suggestions. They were focused intentions carrying specific vibrational frequencies capable of rearranging physical reality. He knew that words carry power, not just symbolic meaning, but actual creative force. When Jesus taught that, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks, he was acknowledging that our words carry the vibrational quality of our consciousness. This is why he emphasized truth in speech and cautioned that we will be held accountable for every idle word, not as punishment, but as the natural consequence of sending particular vibrations into the universe. Consider the moment when Jesus healed the woman with the issue of blood. Though he didn't consciously direct the healing, he felt power go out from him when she touched his garment. This was vibrational transfer. Her faith-filled touch connected with the high-frequency energy field of his being, automatically raising her own vibrational state to one of health and wholeness. Jesus' transfiguration on the mountain offers another example of vibrational mastery. When his inner light shone through his physical form, the disciples witnessed his true vibrational nature, higher and more refined than ordinary physical matter. This wasn't supernatural, but a revelation of his natural state, temporarily visible to physical eyes that normally perceive only a narrow band of vibrational reality. Consider your own words and thoughts. Each carries a specific frequency that affects both your internal state and the world around you. When Jesus advised, "Let your communication be yes, yes, or no, no," he was teaching vibrational coherence. Aligning your speech with truth creates harmony in your being, in your circumstances. The principle of vibration tells us that our words, thoughts, and emotions are not idle. They're powerful forces that carry energy. Jesus demonstrated how faith, spoken intention, and focused thought can change the very fabric of reality when he taught his followers that faith could move mountains. He was showing us that by aligning with the right frequency through belief, love, and divine purpose, we can affect the world around us. Even Jesus' teaching method utilized this principle. His parables resonated at multiple levels, simple stories on the surface but carrying higher vibrational truths, accessible to those attuned to receive them. To you it has been given to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, he told his disciples, because they had developed the capacity to resonate with these higher frequencies of truth. Feel the difference between speaking words of judgment versus words of compassion. Notice how different emotional states, fear, anger, peace, love, create distinct sensations in your body. These aren't just subjective experiences, but actual changes in your vibrational state, affecting every cell and system within you, and radiating outward to influence your environment. The last shall be first, and the first last, Jesus proclaimed in Matthew 20:16. This paradoxical teaching reflects the fourth Hermetic principle, polarity. Everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its pair of opposites. This principle teaches that apparent opposites are not truly separate, but different degrees of the same thing. Hot and cold, love and hate, light and darkness, all are part of the same continuum. Jesus frequently spoke in paradoxes that reflected this unity hidden within duality. Whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for my sake will save it. These teachings aren't contradictions, but insights into the truth of polarity. Just as light cannot exist without darkness, true life cannot be experienced without surrendering the ego's attachments. The Sermon on the Mount is filled with teachings that reveal the principle of polarity. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. In each beatitude, Jesus reveals how apparent opposites, weakness and strength, sorrow and joy, humility and greatness, are actually connected points on the same spectrum. His greatest demonstration of this principle came through the crucifixion and resurrection. What appeared as ultimate defeat became the doorway to ultimate victory. What seemed like death became the path to eternal life. In this cosmic reversal, Jesus revealed that opposites are not merely connected, they often contain each other. Within every challenge lies opportunity. Within every ending, a new beginning. Look at your own experience. Notice how qualities you consider opposite are actually connected. Courage cannot exist without fear to overcome. Forgiveness requires an offense to forgive. Compassion arises from recognizing suffering. The spiritual journey isn't about eliminating one pole and clinging to another. It's about transcending the illusion of separation between them. Jesus demonstrated this transcendence throughout his ministry. He embraced both divine power and human vulnerability. He expressed righteous anger when cleansing the temple and infinite compassion when forgiving his executioners. He showed that spiritual mastery isn't about rejecting parts of human experience, but integrating them into a higher unity. Consider his approach to the woman caught in adultery. Rather than choosing between harsh judgment and permissive tolerance, the apparent opposites presented by her accusers, Jesus transcended the polarity altogether with his response. Let him who is without sin cast the first stone, followed by, neither do I condemn you, go and sin no more. He demonstrated a consciousness that encompassed both justice and mercy, transcending their seeming opposition. The principle of polarity offers a powerful tool for transformation, the art of mental alchemy. By understanding that opposites are connected, we can transmute negative states into positive ones through the power of conscious intention. When Jesus taught us to love your enemies, he wasn't just offering a moral ideal, but a practical method for transcending the illusion of separation and experiencing the unity that lies beyond. This doesn't mean denying or suppressing genuine emotions. It means recognizing that where your attention goes, energy flows. You can consciously shift your position on any spectrum of experience by focusing on its opposite. Darkness doesn't need to be fought. It can be transformed through introducing light. Hatred isn't conquered by more hatred, but dissolved through love. When Jesus told his followers to turn the other cheek, he wasn't advocating passive acceptance of abuse, but demonstrating how to break the cycle of opposition that perpetuates conflict. By refusing to respond to aggression with counter-aggression, we transcend the polarity and open space for something new to emerge. This is spiritual alchemy, transforming the base metal of conflict into the gold of understanding. To everything, there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven, teaches Ecclesiastes, a wisdom Jesus undoubtedly knew well. This scripture reflects the fifth Hermetic principle, rhythm. Everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. Jesus demonstrated profound understanding of life's rhythms. He knew when to withdraw into silence and when to speak with authority, when to rest and when to act with power. He taught his disciples about the rhythm of spiritual unfoldment, that the seed must die before new life emerges, that suffering often precedes transformation, that darkness comes before dawn. Consider the pattern of Jesus' ministry. He alternated periods of public teaching with times of solitary prayer. He moved between cities and wilderness, between crowds and intimate gatherings. This wasn't random movement, but conscious alignment with natural rhythms, knowing that sustainable spiritual work requires both engagement and withdrawal, both expression and absorption. His teaching on prayer reflects this same wisdom. When you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Jesus understood the rhythm between outer activity and inner communion, that spiritual power accumulates in silence before expressing in action. His own practice demonstrated this principle, as he often withdrew to pray before significant ministry events. The parables of the kingdom likewise teach the principle of rhythm. When Jesus compared God's kingdom to a farmer who plants seeds that grow while he sleeps, he was illustrating the natural cycling between active work and patient waiting, between doing and allowing. The farmer cannot force growth, but must respect its inherent timing and rhythm. Observe the rhythms in your own life, the cycles of energy and fatigue, inspiration and struggle, connection and solitude. These aren't random fluctuations, but expressions of a universal principle. Just as nature moves through seasons, our lives flow through rhythmic cycles that cannot be eliminated, but they can be understood and navigated with wisdom. Jesus' teaching about worry demonstrates his understanding of rhythm. Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. He knew that trying to control future cycles from within our present cycle creates unnecessary suffering. Each cycle must be lived and experienced in its own time. When Jesus said, "In the world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer, I have overcome the world," he wasn't promising to eliminate life's challenges. He was revealing a higher perspective, that by understanding the rhythmic nature of experience, we can remain centered through both the peaks and valleys. The waves on the ocean's surface don't disturb its depths. Even Jesus' own life demonstrated the great rhythm between life and death, manifestation and withdrawal, presence and absence. "It is good that I go away," he told his disciples, because he understood that his physical departure was necessary for the next cycle of spiritual unfoldment. His resurrection and promised return complete this cosmic rhythm, the eternal pattern of departure and return. The principle of rhythm offers both comfort and strategy. When you're experiencing difficulty, you can take solace in knowing that this too shall pass, that by cosmic law, every downswing will eventually return upward. And rather than resisting these natural rhythms, you can work with them, resting when it's time to rest, acting decisively when the moment calls for action. Jesus taught his followers to pray, "Give us this day our daily bread," an acknowledgement of divine provision that comes not all at once, but in rhythm with our needs. He demonstrated perfect trust in divine timing, never rushing ahead of guidance or lagging behind it. This mastery of rhythm is available to each of us as we align with the cosmic cycles that govern all existence. "Whatever a man sows, that he will also reap," Paul wrote, echoing Jesus' teaching that, "With the measure you use, it will be measured back to you." These statements reflect the sixth Hermetic principle, cause and effect. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. Jesus continuously emphasized this principle throughout his ministry. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a bad tree bear good fruit. By their fruits you will know them. These weren't just moral teachings, but explanations of a fundamental cosmic law, that everything in existence is connected through chains of causation, and nothing happens by accident or outside of universal law. The parable of the sower powerfully illustrates this principle. Different soils produce different yields from the same seed, not by chance or divine favoritism, but through the impersonal operation of cause and effect. The condition of the soil, cause, determines the productivity of the seed, effect. Jesus wasn't merely offering agricultural insights, but revealing how consciousness interacts with spiritual truth according to universal law. Consider the healing miracles of Jesus. In many cases, he explicitly connected the person's faith, cause, with their healing, effect. "Your faith has made you well," he often said, acknowledging that while divine power was available to all, its manifestation required the appropriate causal conditions within consciousness. This wasn't arbitrary, but the operation of spiritual law. Even Jesus' teachings on prayer demonstrate the principle of cause and effect. "Ask and you will receive, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be opened to you." This isn't magical thinking, but recognition of causal relationship between spiritual asking, cause, and spiritual receiving, effect. The asking creates the condition necessary for the receiving to occur. Consider your own life as a garden. Every thought, word, and action is a seed planted, inevitably producing a harvest of corresponding quality. This isn't punishment or reward, but the impersonal operation of cosmic law. When Jesus forgave sins, he wasn't merely pardoning offenses, but interrupting chains of negative causation, allowing new possibilities to emerge. Jesus' teaching on judgment operates through this same principle. Do not judge, or you too will be judged. This isn't divine retribution, but the recognition that the consciousness that judges others, cause, naturally experiences judgment itself, effect. The mind that sees fault in others becomes increasingly fault-finding toward itself. This isn't punishment, but the natural consequence of how consciousness operates. In every miracle, Jesus demonstrated this principle in action. His healing touch was more than physical. It was spiritual, sowing seeds of faith, hope, and forgiveness, with transformative effects not only for the individuals healed, but for entire communities. Every thought, every word, every deed sets in motion a chain of events, often beyond what we can see or understand. Jesus' teaching that blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy, wasn't describing an exchange where God rewards the merciful with mercy. Rather, it reveals that the consciousness capable of extending mercy, cause, naturally becomes capable of receiving mercy, effect. The same openness of heart that allows mercy to flow outward also allows it to flow inward. The principle of cause and effect calls us to mindfulness and responsibility. Your choices matter, not because an external authority judges them, but because they inevitably shape your experience through the operation of universal law. When Jesus taught, "Judge not that you be not judged," he wasn't threatening divine retribution, but explaining how consciousness operates. Judgment of others creates a pattern that returns to affect your own experience. This principle operates across multiple planes: physical, mental, and spiritual. A change in thought, cause, produces changes in emotion and physical state, effects. A shift in spiritual awareness, cause, transforms your perception and relationships, effects. By understanding these connections, you gain tremendous power to create positive change, not by forcing or controlling external circumstances, but by addressing root causes within consciousness itself. In the beginning, God created them, male and female, says Genesis, establishing a fundamental pattern that Jesus honored throughout his ministry. This teaching reflects the seventh Hermetic principle, gender. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes. This principle isn't about physical gender, but about complementary energies present throughout creation. The masculine aspect is directive, assertive, and outward focused, like the sun. The feminine aspect is receptive, nurturing, and inward focused, like the earth. These aren't opposing forces, but complementary aspects of the same creative process, both essential, both divine. Jesus embodied perfect balance of these energies. He demonstrated masculine strength when confronting corruption and feminine compassion when comforting the suffering. He taught with masculine clarity and feminine intuition. He embodied divine authority while remaining receptively attuned to the Father's will. Consider Jesus' teaching style. He balanced masculine directive teaching, "You have heard it said, but I say to you," with feminine receptive approaches, using questions, parables, and drawing wisdom from listeners. He knew when to assert truth directly and when to nurture understanding through story and metaphor. This wasn't inconsistency, but masterful balance of complementary teaching energies. Jesus' relationship with the divine reflected this same principle. He referred to God as Father, acknowledging the masculine creative principle, yet his own relationship with the Father was one of perfect receptivity. "I do nothing of myself, but as the Father taught me, I speak these things." He demonstrated the feminine quality of complete receptivity to divine will, while expressing the masculine quality of decisive action. Look within yourself. Regardless of your physical gender, you contain both masculine and feminine qualities. The integration of these aspects isn't just psychologically healthy, it's spiritually transformative. When Jesus taught that we must be born again, he was pointing to a spiritual rebirth that comes through the sacred union of these complementary forces within us. The miracles of Jesus often demonstrated this principle in action. Consider the feeding of the 5,000. Jesus took the bread, receptive, feminine phase, blessed it, transformative phase, and gave it to be distributed, expressive, masculine phase. This pattern, receive, transform, express, reflects the creative process that occurs when masculine and feminine principles work in harmony. Jesus' interactions with women demonstrated his understanding of feminine wisdom. His deep respect for Mary Magdalene and other female disciples challenged the patriarchal structures of his time. He recognized that divine revelation comes through both masculine and feminine channels, that both are necessary for spiritual wholeness. When Jesus taught Martha that Mary had chosen the better part by sitting at his feet and listening, he wasn't diminishing Martha's service, but emphasizing that the feminine quality of receptivity must precede the masculine quality of action. First, we must receive wisdom, then we can express it through service. Both are essential, but they must come in the proper order. The principle of gender teaches that creation itself emerges from the interplay of masculine and feminine forces. Just as new life comes from the union of male and female, new manifestations in your life emerge from the harmony of your directive and receptive energies. When you balance your ability to act decisively with your capacity to listen intuitively, you participate more fully in the creative process that governs the universe. Jesus' entire mission demonstrated this creative interplay. His conception united divine initiative with Mary's receptivity. His ministry balanced authoritative teaching with compassionate healing. His death unified surrender with purpose, and his resurrection embodied the ultimate creative act, the emergence of new life from the union of heaven and earth. This balance isn't static, but dynamic, flowing and adjusting as different situations call for different expressions of energy. Sometimes you need to stand firm in your truth, masculine, while other times you need to yield and receive, feminine. Jesus demonstrated this perfect flow, knowing exactly when to assert and when to surrender, culminating in his ultimate act of strength through surrender on the cross. As we've explored these 7 Hermetic principles through the lens of Jesus' teachings, perhaps you've recognized a profound truth that what we call miracles are actually demonstrations of universal laws that operate for everyone. Jesus didn't suspend these laws, he mastered them. And he promised, "The works that I do shall you do also, and greater works than these." But understanding these principles intellectually isn't enough. Knowledge must become embodiment. Jesus didn't just teach truth, he lived it, breathed it, embodied it in every moment. "I and the Father are one," he declared, demonstrating complete integration with universal mind. This same integration is our birthright and destiny. The spiritual journey is not about accumulating more information, but about transforming your consciousness to align with these universal principles. Jesus emphasized this when he said, "If you continue in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free." Notice the progression. First practice, continue in my word, then identity transformation, truly my disciples, then experiential knowledge, will know the truth, and finally liberation, will make you free. This transformation doesn't happen overnight, but unfolds gradually as you integrate these principles into your daily life. Jesus often compared spiritual growth to natural processes, seeds sprouting, dough rising, trees bearing fruit, acknowledging that embodiment happens organically, not mechanically. Yet there are practical steps you can take to accelerate this integration. Let me offer 4 practical steps to begin embodying these principles in your daily life. First, practice mindful awareness. Begin to observe your thoughts, emotions, and actions without judgment. Notice how they create effects in your life through the law of cause and effect. Pay attention to your vibrational state and how it influences your experience. This simple practice of witnessing creates space for transformation. Jesus taught this awareness when he asked, "Why do you see the speck in your neighbor's eye but do not notice the log in your own eye?" He wasn't just addressing hypocrisy, but inviting us to develop self-awareness, to observe our own consciousness in action. This witnessing presence is the foundation of all spiritual growth. Try this simple practice. For 5 minutes each day, simply observe your thoughts without following them. Notice how they arise, how they create emotional responses, and how they fade away. Don't try to change anything, just witness. This exercise strengthens your connection to the observing awareness that is your true nature. Second, cultivate inner balance. Honor both the masculine and feminine aspects within you. Balance action with receptivity, speaking with listening, doing with being. Notice when you're overemphasizing one polarity and consciously bring in its complement. Remember Jesus' perfect balance of strength and tenderness, authority and humility. Jesus demonstrated this balance in his own practice of alternating between periods of active ministry and quiet retreat, between public teaching and private prayer. He knew that spiritual power emerges from the harmony of complementary energies, not from forcing one mode at the expense of another. A practical exercise. Identify an area of life where you feel out of balance. If you've been primarily in action mode, schedule time for receptive stillness. If you've been overly passive, take one decisive action. Notice how restoring balance brings new energy and clarity to your experience. Third, align with higher rhythm. Instead of fighting against life's natural cycles, learn to flow with them. Recognize when it's time to advance and when it's time to retreat, when to speak and when to remain silent. Trust divine timing even when your ego wants to rush ahead or lag behind. As Jesus taught, "My time has not yet come. Now my time has come." Jesus constantly demonstrated this alignment with divine timing. He didn't heal everyone, didn't teach everywhere, didn't respond to every demand. He moved in perfect harmony with the cosmic rhythm, neither rushing nor delaying the unfoldment of his mission. Try this practice. Before reacting to challenging situations, pause and ask, what is the right response for this moment? Sometimes action is needed, other times patience. Sometimes words are required, other times silence. By attuning to the rhythm of each situation rather than applying fixed responses, you align with the natural flow of life. Fourth, practice mental alchemy. Use your understanding of polarity to transmute negative states into positive ones. When fear arises, consciously shift toward love. When judgment appears, intentionally move toward compassion. Remember that opposites are connected. By focusing on the quality you wish to embody, you naturally move away from its opposite. Jesus taught this alchemy when he instructed us to love your enemies and bless those who curse you. He wasn't advocating denial of negative experiences, but offering a method for transforming them through the conscious application of their opposites. This isn't mere positive thinking, but working with the actual structure of reality. A powerful exercise. When you notice yourself in a negative state, anxiety, resentment, self-criticism, don't fight it. Instead ask, what is the opposite quality? Then deliberately cultivate that quality through thought, visualization, and action. If you're feeling fear, consciously generate love. If you're experiencing judgment, intentionally practice acceptance. This isn't suppression, but transformation through the law of polarity. Finally, remember that integration happens through community. Jesus didn't teach isolated individuals, but formed a community of practice. The principles come alive through shared experience, mutual support, and collective embodiment. Where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, Jesus said, there am I in the midst of them. Spiritual transformation accelerates in the crucible of authentic community. Consider forming or joining a group dedicated to exploring these principles together. Share your insights, challenges, and breakthroughs. Practice together. Hold each other accountable with love. Remember that awakening is never just personal. It's always in service to the greater whole. These principles aren't abstract concepts, but living truths that Jesus demonstrated through his life and ministry. They're not exclusive to any religion or tradition, but universal laws available to all who recognize and apply them. Seek and you shall find, Jesus promised. Knock and the door will be open to you. As you integrate these principles into your consciousness, you'll begin to experience what Jesus called the kingdom of heaven, not as a future destination, but as a present reality available here and now. This kingdom isn't a place but a state of consciousness in which you recognize your oneness with universal mind and your ability to co-create through universal law. Remember that this journey isn't about becoming something you're not, but recognizing what you've always been. As Jesus taught, the kingdom isn't here or there, but within you, already present, waiting to be recognized. The transformation isn't adding something new, but removing the veils that obscure your true nature. I invite you to begin today. Choose one principle that resonates most strongly and look for its operation in your life. Notice how it manifests in your experiences, your relationships, your internal states. Share your insights with others on the same journey. Remember that awakening is both deeply personal and inherently communal. We rise together through shared wisdom and mutual support. The ancient Hermetic axiom declares, as above, so below, as within, so without. Your journey of embodying these principles creates ripples that extend far beyond your individual life. As Jesus taught his disciples, you are the light of the world. By aligning with universal law, you become a living demonstration of what's possible for humanity, just as Jesus was in his time and continues to be for us today. This isn't about creating a better version of yourself. It's about recognizing your essential nature as an expression of universal mind. It's not about controlling reality, but aligning with it. Not about becoming spiritual, but discovering that you are fundamentally spiritual already. Not about reaching enlightenment, but recognizing the light that you already are. Let your light shine before others, Jesus taught. As you embody these principles, you naturally radiate their truth through your presence. Your life becomes a testament not to personal achievement, but to universal possibility. Like Jesus, you demonstrate what it means to be fully human and fully divine, not as separate states, but as the same reality viewed from different perspectives. The door is open, the invitation stands. The time for awakening is now.